This article is from the May-June 2023 issue of the Maharshi published by Sri Arunachala Ashrama. It is entitled Guru Vachaka Kovai, Selected Verses. The importance of Sri Muruganar's Guru Vachaka Kovai, the garland of Guru's sayings, cannot be overstated. The translation by David Godman, Rob Butler, and Dr. T.V. Venkata Subramaniam is a boon for Sri Bhagavan's devotees, allowing us to dwell in that sacred experience that was vouchsafed to Sri Muruganar by the grace of his Guru. The following verses, including editorial comments, are from the first chapter titled The Reality of the World. Verse 20. The worlds that are described as being either 3 or 14 are real when seen from the point of view of the primal cause, Brahman, because they have unceasing existence as their real nature. However, when attention is paid only to the names and forms, the effect, even the undecaying cause, the plenitude, will appear to be non-existent. Verse 21. To the ignorant who believe it to be real and revel in it, the world that appears before them is God's creation. But to the steadfast jnanis who have known the bondage-free self by direct experience, it is merely a deluding and binding concept that is wholly mental. Bhagavan generally taught that the appearance of an external world comes into existence as an act of projection by the individual eye that sees it. As such, it is very similar to the dream world, which is also a mental creation of the one who dreams. For those who are not able or willing to accept this explanation, he would say that it was God's creation. Irrespective of which theory one believes in, the external world is known to be a mere concept once the self has been realized. Verse 22. Understand well that the world seen of empty names and forms, comprising the objects of the 5 senses, perceived in the perfectly pure Swarupa, the Supreme Self, is merely the divine sport of the mind Maya that arises as an imaginary idea in that Swarupa, being consciousness. Verse 23. Those in whose consciousness there is no awareness whatsoever of anything other than the self, the absolute fullness of consciousness, will not declare this world, which, from the perspective of God, Brahman, does not exist, to be that truth whose hallmark is never to deviate from absolute fullness. Paripurnam. 24. You who believe that the world, which is experienced merely as an object of the senses, is real, and who cherish it as something worthwhile, come ultimately to grief, like the parrot that waits for the silk cotton fruit to ripen. If this world is real merely because it is perceived, then water, seen in a mirage, is also real because it too is perceived. The fruit of the silk cotton tree is a large pod that always remains green. When it finally ripens, it bursts open, revealing its insides, an inedible white fluffy mass of fiber. Expecting the world to produce real benefits is compared to the fruitless vigil of the parrot that ignorantly expects something delicious to come out of the silk cotton tree's pod. Verse 25. Do not get confused by abandoning the state of clarity, the Swarupa perspective, and then pursue appearances, taking them to be real. That which appears will disappear, and hence it is not real, but the true nature of the one who sees never ceases to exist. Know that it alone is real. Verse 26. Since the world appears only to mind consciousness, the distortion produced by Maya, and not to the Atma Swarupa consciousness that exists as the source of the mind, can there be any world that truly exists? Verse 27. Do not be confounded by this worthless samsara that appears as a dream in the deluding sleep of ignorance. In a mind that has an intense desire for reality, consciousness the supreme, it is impossible for the binding mental delusions that arise in the dense darkness of ignorance to remain.